Well, folks, Arkansas is off to a great start in the College World Series as they win Game 1 over Stanford in a major way, especially offensively. We're going to talk about that, get to hear from Dave Van Horn, do a little previewing of Arkansas and Ole Miss coming up Monday night, and recap the College World Series. This is the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday afternoon is at the time of this recording. Maybe listening to this on Monday, but either way, it's been a hot one, but a great one if you're a Razorback baseball fan in the College World Series. As Arkansas just yesterday, and I've gone to a lot of press conferences and I've been doing a lot of interviews and stuff with players and with coaches and everything, but it was truly incredible to see Arkansas do what they did in Game 1 against Stanford. I mean, I can't tell you how I am just still blown away by the performance that Arkansas had, which, let's be honest about it. It's one game. And we saw last year where Arkansas had a big game against NC State where they put out a lot of runs and a lot of offense and ended up losing that series. I think it's a little different circumstance, but still, we know you can never take anything for granted. We know that you can just never look at everything and say, all right, well, this is why Arkansas is going to win it all because they look how dominant that they were. None of that can be used. None of that can be seen. But if you were going to tell me that Arkansas was going to win this game 17-2, with 21 hits, where every single Razorback baseball player in the lineup got a hit, I would have thought you were crazy. I would have thought there's just no way. There's no chance in God's green earth that this team is going to find a way to win that type of way. But as we have seen with this Razorback baseball team in this postseason, they continue to surprise us all with how they play and how they end up scoring and all that. Like, it's just amazing how they continue to do the things that they do. And it was just an absolute clinic, especially offensively for Arkansas. Now, there's a lot of different directions we'll go with this, and again, we'll have a little clip from Dave Van Horn on something I thought was really interesting from the game and how he handles his players. But you knew that it was going really well when Braden Webb, first pitch of the game, almost goes yard. Like, I mean, we're talking about inches from having a solo shot home run. But it was something that was even better, in my opinion, because you don't see him so much more rare. He got a triple off of it, and as soon as that happened, you could tell Arkansas this was going to be a different deal because they didn't listen. They scored one run in that inning, and they didn't score again until the fifth inning. But even in those innings that they didn't score, they had bases loaded. They had men at first and second. They stranded 17 base runners in this game while still recording 17 runs and 21 hits. Like, it was from the get-go, Arkansas's offense was not going to be denied in this. And it really opened up in the fifth inning when Arkansas ended up scoring 5 runs. And they took the lead 6-1 there. And then seventh, eighth, and ninth inning, you had 3 runs, 2 runs, and 6 runs scored. And at that point, I think even Dave Van Horn said this, you can just kind of write that off and not really count that because Stanford's going to start throwing in some guys that, they don't, normally would throw in and kind of just wanting to save their pitching for the next game. So, you can't really look at those runs and say, oh, wow, this is how much better Arkansas is. But you can look at that fifth inning and what really made it explode and really gave Arkansas the big lead, of course, driven in by Chris Lanzilli's 3-run shot that just blew the doors wide open. So I know, and it was the thing is as much as the offense gets talked about, and rightfully so, you also had incredible defensive plays. Bob Moore making great plays. He ended up on SportsCenter top 10 for one of his plays. Peyton Stovall had some great plays. And, of course, Connor Nolan doing his thing, and which was an incredible deal where he went nearly 7 1/3 innings, all right? 7 1/3 innings. He only gave up 6 hits, all right? He only gave up 2 runs, 2 earned runs, and one of those runs actually when he came out of the game and Cole Ramage came in. So, I know you count that by the stats, but the craziest thing of it all is he only pitched 79 pitches. 79 pitches. He only had 1 strikeout. He only walked 1 batter. But because of Stanford, and the way they hit, they just hit right to Arkansas's defense. And even times where they would make some plays that would have normally be in that position, Arkansas ended up, making incredible defensive plays and putting them out of position too. So, all those things and put into place. This was just the type of game that where you couldn't have any more fun if you're a Razorback baseball fan than this. Like, it was just from pitching, from defense, from hitting. It had to be, at least in my opinion, the best overall performance in a single game this year. And the fact that everyone got a hit, like, that was incredible. Like Bob Moore, he went up to bat 5 times, he got on base 5 times. He had 3 walks and 2 hits. Guy that has been struggling to get on the base. And so, what does this mean? What are we going to sit here and try to say, all right, well, this is why the team's going to, go in and beat Ole Miss, which is who they're going to play next. Is this any indication? I think nothing. No, it does not matter. Does not matter. I don't care what that final score says. Does not matter. You got the win, and that's great, and that's all that matters. But you cannot see anything from this game and say, well, this is why Arkansas is going to beat Ole Miss because this is what they did against Stanford. It's not how it works. In fact, I would fully expect that if Arkansas, when they go into against Ole Miss, that I could totally see a lower scoring, like 3-2 game. Totally could see it. We don't know exactly officially who the pitching is going to be for Arkansas. We spoke to Dave Van Horn today. He did mention the fact that he's either going with a lefty or a righty, but he did at least give the options of those lefties and righties would either be Will McIntyre or Zach Morris. So, when those things happen, that's kind of going to be the way that, they go about it with how they're going to handle pitching and all that, which I think they'll be fine with both options. Just kind of depends. He says both of them will probably end up pitching in no matter what. But they're going to try to see how that goes and try to adjust to it as well. But just outstanding performance. And here's the thing. You're 4 wins away. You're 4 wins away from winning the College World Series. And that's all you need. It's just 4 more wins. And if you find a way to get past past Ole Miss, and you win that game, and then you wait until Wednesday to play against, whoever's left in the bracket from the losers bracket from your side in that next game on Wednesday. I mean, this is what this is all what you've been wanting. This is exactly what you want the position you want to be in. If you're telling me that you can go into this situation and win that game, then everything opens up. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but it's hard not to think that Arkansas, with the way that they're playing, is not one of the best teams left. Now, there's a lot of good teams in here, and I'm not taking anything away. Ole Miss is a good team. They're on fire right now. They looked dead in the water for a while. Most people felt like they didn't even deserve to be in there. And boom, here they are. They're in there, and they get to go to the College World Series and all that stuff. But it's just, you never know. You never want to take it for granted. You never want to, overthink anything or on anything like that. But we just look at Arkansas and what they're doing and how they're doing it and how effectively they're doing it, how incredible their defense is, how consistent their pitching has been, how their bats are starting to come alive, how the guys in the bottom of the lineup are starting to put themselves in great position to score, leaving it open for the top of the lineup. Like, all of these things together, just it's almost too good to be true of how you want it to be. Now, they got to go out and execute, and they still got to continue to do that. But, folks, just the mentality and how this team is, you got to have a good feeling. You got to be confident about it. Now, we know that baseball's crazy. We know that, one bad pitch can change everything. One bad play can change everything. We all know that. Trust me, Razorback fans. We know how that can go. We know how badly that can turn around on you if you're not careful. But, again, it's great to see the Razorbacks start strong like they did against Stanford, who's a really good baseball team. And now they got Ole Miss up next, which Ole Miss, they're not as bad as what they used to be, but they're still a bunch of TikTok star, going crazy, going wild type of idiots out there too. And they're not as bad as Tennessee, but they're kind of up there. So it'd be really nice to shut them up and get them out and get them out as quickly as possible. But Arkansas, that's going to be their challenge. And we're going to do a little bit of previewing for Ole Miss here in just a second. But first, I got to tell you about BetOnline.net, your number one source for all your bets, sporting needs, and sports info. From all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball, BetOnline.net continues to be your source for all sport wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. head over to betonline.net, and it's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. If you go to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions, just do it at betonline.net, where the game starts.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so Arkansas and Ole Miss, teams that have faced each other already this year, as we know. And Arkansas was able to get the series victory on a walk-off rubber match by Kendall Diggs in Baum-Walker Stadium, which was so electric and so much fun. And, they took care of business, and it got people just jacked. Anytime you can beat Ole Miss that way, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to see. And so now you get to face them again, and you're very familiar with them. You're familiar with the coaches. You're familiar with their style and all of that. So that's what's going to make this so intriguing. And honestly, like, that Ole Miss series was crazy because Arkansas lost game 1, but then came back and won game 2 and 3 at home. And it felt like the confidence was through the roof, especially when you got Kendall Diggs out there hitting the walk-off home run. I mean, it doesn't get any sweeter than that. It doesn't get any better than that. And so you got to feel good, and you got to feel confident about it too. But one of the things that I thought was so interesting when Dave Van Horn was asked about this yesterday in the press conference was about his players and kind of how he approaches them. And he approaches them in the way of, saying, well, what do you really, are you hands-on with them? Do you talk to them all the time about this and that? And, how intense is the relationship to him? How often do you get on to him? Like all of that stuff at this point in time, especially during the season, because there's a lot of pressure on the kids. There's a lot of pressure on the team. There's a lot of outside noise. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance going on. So how do you handle this? How do you deal with this? Well, I thought that Dave Van Horn had a really great response. Take a listen.
You just, at this time of the year, you just don't do too much. You just don't wear them down. We've changed up some things lately as far as our pregame routine. We don't take a lot of ground balls. Some days if we take ground balls when we hit, we don't take pregame in and out, because why do you need to take pregame in and out? And I talked to the players about it a little bit. Today I talked to the infielders and I said, hey, this is what I'd like to do, but tell me if you don't want to do this. I don't want to take all the ground balls before batting practice starts. Let's just take a few. We have a routine that's normally pretty intense, and we didn't do that. I said, but I want to take in and out, and they were all about it. And, so we mix it up a little bit, but I listen to them, because they're the ones playing. It's 95 degrees or whatever. Yeah.
So hearing Dave Van Horn say, I listen to him. I listen to the players, and because you kind of think about, wait a minute, the coaches. It's like coach's law, whatever coach says you got to do. And if you don't do it, then you're going to face the consequences. That's kind of how a mentality sometimes can be viewed upon when it comes to the coach and player relationship. But what it sounds like with Dave Van Horn, and what I think that is actually a pretty cool thing, is that he is at the point to where he has a lot of experienced players, guys that are older, that have been around, that are basically to the point to where he doesn't have to do anything extra to motivate them. He doesn't have to do anything extra for them to, get fired up or to know what to do and what not to do. It's like they've already gotten to that point. Like they all know. They all know what they're supposed to do. They all know what the position is. They all know what's expected of them. And so there's no reason to try to reiterate those points. But I think it's so cool anytime you hear coaches refer to this, especially with Van Horn, and when he approaches his players and saying, hey, what do you guys feel like you need? Because it's not like the players and they get to the College World Series and they're like, hey guys, coach is asking us what we want to do. Let's just say that we need an extra day off so we could just chill and play some video games and hang out, because we don't want to do any work. Let's just tell them that, so that way we don't have to work hard. No, you don't come to the College World Series with that mentality. And Dave Van Horn trusts his players. And so I think that him basically opening it up to say, hey guys, that it's hot as balls out here. You know that. You know how good you are. You know how good you're playing. You know what's expected. So what are the things that you feel like is going to help you? What are the things that you need to make sure that your mentality is right, where you don't feel tired and exhausted and frustrated, where you're not feeling like, you're not getting enough routine practice in, or you're feeling like something you need extra help with that you're not getting enough of, whatever it may be. Let's figure this out as a team. instead of just saying, this is what we're doing and that's how we're going to do it. And if you don't like it, you can get out. That's, maybe for some coaches, they do it that way. And maybe they've even had success in it. But, Van Horn is an experienced guy that always knows how to get the most out of his players. And with that type of approach, it's something that I feel like, at least here recently in postseason play, has really elevated Arkansas' status to where it's like when they went through that struggle at the end of the regular season, I don't think Van Horn was yelling at them every day and saying how much they suck. And, there wasn't guys, going after guys and, putting them down and saying, all right, well, now that we're stinking, we're going to up the conditioning and we're going to start doing wind sprints. It's like, no, your players and they know what they need to do. They want to be great because that's how you've coached them. You've coached them to be great. And so you don't have to worry about you coaching them continually to push them to be great. They know how to make themselves better and to continue to prepare and continue to focus and continue to do all those things too. And I think that was just such a great nugget out of Dave Van Horn. And that's something I think that's going to help them against Ole Miss, is because Ole Miss is such a interesting team that the way they approach the game is obviously something that annoys people, but they are a team that's playing hot right now. And they are a team that had to go on the road for the regionals and super regionals, just like Arkansas had to do. They were a team that got used to that, just like Arkansas. There was a team, their pitching's playing at a high level, the best it's been all season long, like Arkansas. So there's some similarities here. But I'm telling you right now, folks, with how Dave Van Horn approaches his players, and also with the fact that you're going to have your choices of where they want to go for the pitching side of things, whether or not they go with McIntyre or Morris is truly irrelevant at this point. But what is relevant is that if they can go in and get something like they did against North Carolina with what they did, Connor Nolan gave it to him once again, just lights out to start the game. If the second game comes around and then this one against Ole Miss, and whoever starts, if it ends up being Morris or McIntyre, if you can get them to get you, I say five great innings, scoreless or one run, whatever, just really just like putting you in a great position where the pressure is not on your offense to try to outscore the other team, Arkansas is going to win. Like that's just how I feel. I feel if Arkansas can get through 5 innings, only holding Ole Miss to 1 or no runs, Arkansas is going to win this game, because they did something just like that against North Carolina, game 1 and game 2. They've done it in other particular games this season too. But to me, that's kind of the key to success. As cliche as it may sound, as lame as it may sound, that's the key to the team's success. And I expect them to really get it done and to make that happen. So either way, but we'll close up shop and talk about some Omaha nonsense here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, and I want to have some fun with this, so nobody just feel like I'm trying to come down on anybody or anything like that. But as a lot of you may know on social media, there is the College World Series Jell-O Shot Challenge, and it happens at Rocco's it's a little bar that's next to the Charles Schwab Stadium or Charles Schwab Field, however they put it. But it's right there, and they've done this for a few years now. So this isn't something new. Like, they've always had these types of Jell-O shot challenges. And what essentially it is that they put out Jell-O shots specifically for each of the 8 teams in the College World Series. And they keep a score of how many Jell-O shots are ordered for each team. So that way, at the end of the College World Series, there's one team that remains victorious, and it's the team that got the most Jell-O shots ordered in their name. And again, it's kind of fun. I think it's a great business move, obviously. But they're $4.50 a piece. $4.50 a piece, which for a Jell-O shot is absurd. But the latest at the time of this recording that they have posted the scores, Arkansas is leading the way with 2,558 Jell-O shots. Ole Miss is close behind at 2,394. And then the next closest is Texas A&M with 380. So it's basically just Arkansas and Ole Miss that are going at it when it comes to the Jell-O shot challenge. So if I'm doing my math correctly, which I trust the calendar here or the calculator here. That's what it's for. If I'm doing my math, on Arkansas alone, people ordering Jell-O shots at $4.50 a piece. That's $11,500 that Rocco's has made on one team on Jell-O shots in like 4 days, 3 or 4 days. It's stupid. It's so stupid. And I can't believe so many people are doing this. But that being said, I appreciate the hustle and I respect the hustle. And I respect the player, the fans getting after it and trying to have some fun with this too, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. But Rocco's is really the big winner in this one because they just make so much money off of Jell-O shots. And I tried them and they're, whatever. But they're just, I mean, it's funny. It's just funny that they done this and that's become such a big deal to where, hey, winning the College World Series is the best thing ever. But the next best thing, if you can't win it, would be winning the competition for Jell-O shots at Rocco's. I probably would rather take the College World Series, but still, that's just one of the many funny things that go on here in Omaha. And, I'm sure that there'll be some more to talk about throughout the week for sure. Appreciate everybody listening into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns we may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.